Chairperson Peach, but also all three of our other commissioners are here today for this meeting. And the purpose of the meeting is for the commission as a whole to have a working meeting to try and determine some of the expenditures on ARPA and CARES money that we have to dispense with, and that we have had an unbelievable number of requests for money. I think the total is around $40 million on 13 million that we have. So, so not everybody's going to get everything. And the other part of it is that for this year, we can only dispense $6.7+ million that we have. The rest will come in May of next year. So even some decisions we might make today will be put off until May for checks, because that's our checks will bounce before then. So and out of that 6.7 million, the state is, or the commission is committed potentially 3 million of it to a wastewater treatment facility related to a project the city has going and trying to entice a major manufacturer, so to speak, to come into our city. So that's where we're at. I don't necessarily need comments from anyone if they've already given us their positions, unless something is new has come up. And there might be a couple of people here. I know there's a gentleman that came from Minneapolis today, and we'll hear from him because I don't want him to have to come back. But we would appreciate it if you have any comments, that you hold it under 5 minutes. We'd like to get a few things done today, and we still have our regular commission meeting at 4 o'clock. So I think as long as you drove up from Minneapolis, we'll hear from you so that you can turn around and go back.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I am requesting funds for oblique imagery with Eagle View. Since COVID, more and more people are hesitant to have us come to their homes. This imagery would be a valuable tool to my office, and not only to my office, but any departments in the county. Dean Larson from Eagle View is here to do a very brief demo of what oblique imagery is and how it can be used countywide. Thank you for your consideration. Oh, I left those there.
Is it okay if I take this off while I'm speaking? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm Dean Larson. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to get some brief overview of what we do. Next slide, please. So Eagle View, or pictometry, I've been with them for 18 years now, and we've invented this new way of doing aerial imagery, oblique, the side views, as well as the straight down views. We're the largest aerial image vendor in the world, actually. Next slide, please. Here are the folks that have it in North Dakota right now. We have over 2,000 counties actually nationwide. And there's a couple cities too, here in Grand Forks and Fargo and Dickinson, as well as those 3 counties. All of those entities have flown multiple times. So I think it really speaks well to why they get a good bang for their buck. Next slide. This is a straight down ortho, or orthogonal. This is what you traditionally are using and you have. This is very important. We provide really great orthos, and they're very instrumental in using you for various GIS applications and so forth. However, what we do in addition to this, and if I had more time, I would have you guess and see what that building was and what the building is, or what the side to the building to the side of it was. But next slide, please. What this is an oblique. So it really speaks to what a picture speaks 1,000 words. Before, when we were looking at that, we couldn't tell if it was a 2-car garage, 3-car garage. Is it a church? Is that building to the right? Is that a parking lot, or is it a flat building, and so forth? So it really does, and we take this imagery from all 4 directions over the entire county. So you can walk around every building and look at that, albeit for any various, applications. Next slide, please. And how do we do this? We take these low flying Cessna 172s going low and slow. They take a straight down image of one in all 4 directions. Next slide. And what we really pride ourselves as is the accuracy and the clarity of the of this imagery. It's the best in the industry. We also deliver it very quickly, so you're using very up-to-date imagery. We also do a disaster imagery program where if you're hit by something, like F4 tornado, we come in and fly the affected area at no cost, and that turnaround time is about 48 hours. So there's, and then everything's processed here in the U.S. as well. Next slide. And here's a quick little imagery outline. Next slide. This is just shows some of this is an oblique, obviously, and so this is where we're sitting, and we can walk around this building on all 4 sides, and we can see where the entrances, exits are. Let's say if I'm at a SWAT, I want to know exactly what's going on. Maybe if I'm the fire department, I want to know how tall that building is. But I can also measure anything on this image. I can measure height, area, slope, and then also we can overlay all your GIS information on top of this. So this fits into what you already have here at the county. We fit into your 911, the mapping software, your CAMA software, all your Esri and all your mapping software. It fits into all of those things. So we're not competing with that. In fact, we're enhancing that. Next slide, please. This is just shows right out back here, shows where we can show the contours, and we can also show the slope and what the distance is between point A and point B, what the difference in elevation is, and what the slope is of that as well. I mean, you can do that anywhere in the county. And then we know the second one, the location shows your X, Y. We know the X, Y, and Z of everything, of every image of that within your entire county. So this is a straight down ortho. You provide county-wide orthos as well, and these are used in everything that you're using them in now, like your Esri products and ArcMap and so forth. And what the really big thing is for this next slide, you can go through these ones sort of as you see fit. It really is an application for every department within the county, including all the cities and the big ones, are 911, public safety, and assessing, but everything down even to weed control. This imagery is used just a ton, and probably boy. This is the usage report for the city of Grand Forks. Now it's probably hard to see, but it's being used a ton by a bunch of different departments right here in the city of Grand Forks. And now they just got done with their second flight, I think it was last year. And they're using it a lot in very many different departments. But here's another one. Next slide, please. This is McKenzie County. And I can't remember what it was, but it was over, 130 image views. And I mean, and as you can see, but from the pie graph, it gets used from everybody in the entire county. So this really helps out, a couple departments a lot, but it also has uses in every other department. Next slide, please. Public safety being one of them. And it's just about situational awareness, being able to do pre-plans, the software, you can do all the pre-plans on that as well. Next slide, please. And next slide. And then property assessment. And one other thing that was in the pricing, and this, well, actually, this one talks about the ARPA justification and the CARES. This was used, this was paid for by several dozen counties nationwide using the CARES fund. The ARPA fund, there's a lot of them that are planning on using it, but it's a great fit. We've seen the use of our technology explode during COVID times, just because we've had to change the way we do some of our work, especially assessing, planning and zoning, and many other departments as well. And this is a change finder result. This is also another thing. This is more aimed at 911 and at assessing. This is where it tells you the building outlines of every building that's over 150 square feet in the county, and then it puts it on its respective parcel, and then it tells you everything that's changed within the county. But then you also can say, you can merge it with your 911 addressing data, and then now you can tell if there's a new building and we don't have a 911 address, we've got to get that on top of that. Now, if there's reversely, if it has been torn down, we've got to get rid of that 911 address. So that's a great use of this tool right here. In GIS, we'll probably just go through these pretty quick. Basically, what we do is this enhances, this gives you all the GIS, all the information into the various softwares. This is our Connect Explorer, where you do the things on your desktop. The next slide, please, is this is a really key one, is the mobile application. So this is a great way to get all your GIS information and all your imagery out into the streets, out into people, out like you're on a patrol. You can hit a little button that tells where you are, and then you can hit another button that says, I want to know who owns this house and what's the address and what's the PIN number. All that information is right there on your phone or any other mobile device. And then there's ArcMap and that. And that's really about where I probably want to stop it, because keep on going. I can't remember. No, that's it. So then, but the big thing is that it really gets used a lot. It gets used by everybody. Everybody benefits from using this, and you'll like it a lot. To be used. Do you have any questions?
No, go ahead.
You made a comment about, is there a fee then to go over the whole county, or the whole, whether it's a city, a county, whatever? Is there a rate then to do the whole county at once, or for a duration of time?
Yes, generally, I would say counties fly every 3 years.
Okay.
That's what the rotation that the city of Grand Forks is on right now. Same as but now, like in McKenzie County, they're growing a lot too, and they fly every other year. Same with Ward and Williams County out there as well. So there's a fee. I think I don't know. I don't have the pricing right now in front of me. I think it was included in the packet.
And that's for the one fee for the 3-year period?
It's for 2 flyovers.
Two flyovers. So that would be for like 6 years, maybe? Okay.
Yeah, if you do it once, then they do the second flight in year 4.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you.
So the properties here in the city have all been flown over already.
Correct.
Is there a different price for this system, for instance, for the city of Grand Forks versus us, if we have less property, or how does that work?
It's all based on the resolution of the imagery. So we did 3-inch imagery in the city of Grand Forks, and what's in the proposal is 6-inch imagery, because 3-inch imagery would just be overkill for everywhere outside the, but you could, if you wanted to add some additional towns at 3-inch, you could do that as well. It's pretty, and we're very, you want to have this flown in the spring, leaf off, snow gone. So we have a small window to do that, but we can be very flexible on the terms and when.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Before we go any further, I'll throw this out to Chairperson Peach. Relative to the Eagle View system, I am somewhat concerned whether it's an actual ARPA project. It might be, but be that as it may, it's not a project in my mind that's going to fall in 2021, because there are projects that are more in need at the present time than that, and it might be one that we consider in 2022. That's my position. Any different thoughts, Commissioner Peach?
No.
Okay. We're good with that. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Mr. Larson, for
Thank
setting
you
up.
for your time.
Thank you.
Now, is there anyone else here that wants to be heard, hasn't been heard? See some new faces. Okay.
I think that would be good.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Any more, go home if you want to go back to work. Mr. Burkholder,
Yes, sir.
why don't you come up and tell us or talk to us about, we wanted to know what the cost of improving the HVAC system, the infirmary setup out at the correctional center, which was wholly inadequate for what you just went through, and you were gonna bring us some numbers today.
Yes, I was. Let me get this to everyone here. This is just a breakout of the numbers that were presented to you in 2019 by Dave Bostwick with HDR. And what was asked specifically last week when we spoke was the issue of the medical and mental health portion of the construction, which he had mentioned in that proposal. And if you look at the third item, the third item down there, medical mental health phase one. In phase one, he had a 40-bed addition to the correction center that would go out the west edge of the building. And look back at the plans, that's what specifically this was for. It was approximately 10,788 square feet. And that would have included just that portion of the build. The question I would have for Icon and stuff, it would be the connection and so forth with that would be the HVAC system and such would be necessary as well. The HVAC system is getting old, and he did not have a breakout of a new HVAC system for the correction center. But it would need to be updated for sure on top of this number in order to accommodate another almost 11,000 square feet. In addition, on his proposal was the site. Just be aware of that. It's more than just that one pod. The site work that he has was for the road that might have to be moved. If you recall, that had a little jaunt out to the west a little bit more. And also an employee parking lot. By adding another module like this, you would be adding at least a minimum of 2 correctional officers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And with the needs for medical and mental health, we can only expect that will go up as well. So there'll be that need for the parking spaces sooner than later. But I don't believe we'd be dealing with this large number. We wouldn't have to, because we wouldn't have to build it to the size that he was proposing at that time. And I think even like we did last time when we did a parking lot extension out there, we had the highway department come in and blade it and put it on some gravel. That's been working fine. I mean, for a few cars, we can do that until we're ready for it as well. So there would be some safe work as well.
Let me interrupt. Didn't we at one time talk about remodeling the infirmary and the correctional center and expanding it into some of your administrative offices? And that's kind of what I was looking for as far as a number two, because then we could separate that out as a ARPA project that's separate and distinct from everything else.
Commissioner Falk, you are correct.
I don't want that $1 million project.
Yeah, that was part of the discussion at one point. That was not the proposal that Dave submitted to us.
Okay.
But you are exactly right. That's one of the options he considered. I think the reason why it didn't go that way is the space would not be sufficient.
Well, I guess sometimes we have to deal with or put up with less than ideal, and that may be the case here, but it's a lot of money again. Any questions, Commissioner Peach?
I haven't been out to the facility for quite some time, I have to admit. I think that hopefully you know, I think that we were looking at about, with this funding, about $1 million to do something with the infirmary, to make it a little bit more usable, feasible, accessible, you know, taking into consideration COVID, taking into consideration that quite a few of the inmates are on medications, do need to see the nurses for a variety of issues. And many of them have health issues that need to be dealt with. I don't know, I guess probably going back to the drawing board and taking a look at what could $1 million do to accommodate reworking the infirmary. And then as time, and not that we want to take a lot of time, but as time goes, then we'll look at, you know, making the space larger, probably bringing in, putting the, I think we're looking at putting the juvenile justice program out there potentially as well. And that's going to be sooner than later, just based on the age of the facility that they're currently in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at one point we were talking about remodeling that infirmary and your administrative offices and so that would be the infirmary for that correctional center. And as I recall, we even got to the point where we were talking about leasing a portable for the administrators to be in. And so when we asked for, and I guess we weren't on the same wavelength to what we asked for a number to come up to do that. That was a project we had in mind, not a $6.5 million facility.
Understood. Commissioner Falk, commissioners, I remember the conversation as it pertained to that area of which we're speaking of now, the administrative hallway is what I call it. There's 4 administrative offices on one side of the hallway and then one across. And the conversation back in about 2017, 18 was that potentially to remove those offices and potentially make 5 individual cells in there that would be used as an infirmary. We do have water access to the backside because we have the employee lounge and locker room right there. So that is still a possibility. I don't know what that number would be, but we could go back and look at that and see what kind of number we would get. And everything I had from Mr. Foster, that was never identified with a dollar amount.
Okay. And I don't know how much work we want, how much money we want to spend with architects coming up with that number for us either. The other side of the coin, I suppose, is we could apply this $1 million to that project, specify that it go towards part of the infirmary and the new project. Any questions from the other 3 commissioners?
I think that's a good approach. We can't necessarily tell exactly what they're going to need it for quite a while, but they're going to need some amount, maybe one million to start.
Well, we need to draw down the number, the big number on this building, or we're not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's all we can do today, Mr. Burkholder. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
You have other projects, you can go back to work if you want.
That I will do, because I will be back in a few hours.
Sounds like a threat, but
We'll see you.
he has other issues.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would kind of like, if possible, to go over when this meeting was set last week, a couple of weeks ago. I talked a little bit about putting some kind of starting point together. And I did put a starting point together, and I did get some numbers from Debbie to make sure I was on the right track. And I'd like to share some of those numbers with you, as well as the rest of the commission that are here. I believe that everyone has received a copy, and the county needs sheet is up on the screen, and I'll refer to that as well. We did take some dollars and already of ARPA funds and already utilize them. Our payments for ARPA come in 2 payments. We got 1 payment in May of 2021. That was $6,745,021.50. That was our first payment. The second payment will come in May of 2022. So far, what has been funded out of ARPA is emergency management truck, $41,511. The city of Grand Forks wastewater project in $3 million. The county office building, there was a chiller replacement for around $500,000. Transfer costs from the CARES Act to ARPA in the amount of $361,580. And the reason why that CARES Act dollars were transferred into ARPA was because CARES Act dollars are a little bit more open. And so we chose to take the more strict funds and put those CARES Act dollars into the more strict funds, because we felt it would be better to have the less restrictive funds available than the more restrictive funds. And then there was ongoing COVID expenditures for about $200,000. So total, there's been about $4,103,091 spent. I felt that we as the commission had always looked at CARES Act dollars being a priority for the health and safety of our population. And so one of the first things that we had was health and safety with our county internally, our internal budget. And we have talked about the corrections budget being at about $1 million. Again, these are just suggestions. This is nothing written in stone at this point. Juvenile detention, there's some HVAC improvements that need to be made in that facility, and that was at $5,000. Also in juvenile detention, they needed a new sanitation equipment at the cost of $12,000. I believe that was a dishwasher. In public health, there was school nurses that we funded in CARES Act, and we want to continue funding the school nursing projects. And the school nurses were for an amount in the public schools outside of the city of Grand Forks. Is that correct? Okay, and that was $291,200. Also, there was additional correctional center nurse support for $81,536. Again, these were the 2 amounts that public health did forward, that those needs were for additional nursing staff. So those were things that I felt were a major priority. Outside of the facility, we had gotten some requests from healthcare facilities in the county. All True Hospital did request an amount of $1.5 million as they're building a new hospital. We probably wouldn't put an entire 1.5 million into that. I think that, or I would assume that probably about $600,000, maybe something that would be appropriate to go to All True. One of the things that when I was thinking about this concept was that maybe that $600,000 shouldn't go just into the budget specifically of the hospital. The residents of this county do not have to go to All True. They can go to Fargo, they can go to Minot, they can go to Rochester, wherever they choose to get their health care is up to them. But when they get sick, when they get hurt, when there's an accident, Grand Forks is mainly the hub for the county for shopping, for doing whatever they do, specialty. They come to Grand Forks, or they're on their way into Grand Forks. When they have an accident, the ambulance comes and usually brings them into Grand Forks. This is the only intensive care unit that we have we do have smaller emergency rooms in Northwood, our other hospital, but oftentimes they do send them on into Grand Forks. So one of the things I thought about was maybe that $600,000 should go specifically to the emergency room. If somebody gets hurt and in an accident around here, they're gonna end up at Altru. And we wanna have our emergency room first rate, because everybody in this county deserves an emergency room experience that's top notch. And right now, is it top notch? I can't answer that yes or no. I've been there several times. You hear lots of people complaining about emergency room waits. I can't state that, compare that with other emergency rooms, because quite frankly, I haven't been to a lot of other emergency rooms, so I can't tell you that. But I think that if we were going to be putting money into Altru Hospital, I think it should go into the emergency room specifically, so that that emergency room could be top notch. And not, well, we're just gonna put this money from the county into that. It needs to specifically go into the emergency room above and beyond the building of that facility, but let's make it top notch.
Over and above what they're planning now,
Correct, over and above.
not just replacing their fund. And I agree with you, the emergency room, it's not Altru's fault, but I was in there some time ago and people were leaving to drive to Fargo because they couldn't get seen, and we need to straighten that out, so.
It's gonna be a long time before the hospital is built, so this is a great idea for taking care of a need right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a good plan.
Well, it won't go in, it'll go into the new hospital, it won't go into this one.
The new facility.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be like shredding money, because that, 2 years from now, it'd be gone.
Okay, so, okay.
The other one for healthcare needs was Spectra Health. They were requesting a social worker, I believe, at the amount of $70,000. I don't think that any request in this area, we're gonna make anybody whole. I was thinking $50,000, although Dr. Swantek, who is the school, the county superintendent in Grand Forks County, he also had brought up a social worker in the funding request from Dr. Swantek. And maybe this social worker at this facility could also help out with the rural schools, because that was something that they were looking at, was social work support. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be at 50, it could be a different amount, but that was just something that ended up on my spreadsheet. Northwood Deaconess, our other healthcare facility, they requested 2.1 point something, or was it 2 point something? I don't have that one sheet.
1.449.
1.449, thank you. This one, they have a clinic in Larimore that they do not own. So I did think that they should purchase the Larimore clinic if they're going to be doing some refurbishing of that. To purchase that facility, I believe in an email we got, it was $165,000. And then to refurbish that facility to make it bigger, they didn't have a very large entryway and they needed to add some other equipment. It was going to be between $300,000 and $400,000. So I thought somewhere around $300,000. It could be less, just to own a facility that you're going to invest in. And there is a need for, I believe, a clinic in the Larimore area that people could utilize, or are utilizing now, but I believe it's put so that was kind of healthcare needs externally. We did look at.
The question on that.
Yes.
The initial email, Northwood had 165 plus 300 to 400 to refurbish. Right, we checked with Mr.
Yes.
Ford, but it's that number went a lot higher on the refurbishing. Mr. Ford probably has that in front of him.
I have that letter in front of me.
Yeah, but I think part of it when we're sitting talking about this is they're not all gonna get what they
Well, I
want.
understand.
Altru wanted
Right.
5 million in one of theirs too.
You're right, it's
Just the
300.
difference between the ask and the
Yeah.
what we can afford. But I just wanted to make sure that that was.
With new
understood.
equipment, we anticipate costs in the range of 300 to 400,000.
And when I look at it, I look at all food services, thousands more people. And so their facility needs to be substantially improved, I think, but
Well, I agree with that too. It's just Ultra has many more sources of funding than small towns do. But the point well taken, we don't have millions
Right.
for everybody. So we have to find a number that works.
Thank you very much. Negative economic impact externally, we talked about CDIC, their budget support due to the pandemic. I believe I put down $200,000. I believe their request was much greater than that, $500,000. So, you know, I put that down. We recognize that they certainly need additional support, and what they do is very specialized for children with trauma due to the pandemic. And obviously there is an increase, I think, into the needs that they need. So that was listed, or that I listed. The River Valley Children's Advocacy Center, there's been increased trauma as well due to the pandemic, and their request was for $60,000, and I put $40,000 in that area. That would almost take us to $676,745,021.50. That would almost spend what we have for the first payment. Mr. Chair, the only other area that I did want to discuss just slightly at this point would be the revenue loss dollar amount, which is about $772,824. And that is funding that is not tied to the restrictions that the ARPA dollars have. And so with those dollars, I know that we had talked about Mr. West, and with the highway budget at 2020 came in significantly less because of the lack of individuals out on the roads using gas, and that's based on gas usage. I know that Nick's budget was short 328,000 in 2020. We don't know what it's going to be for 2021 at this point. I would suggest that we put $328,000 into that 2020 budget to make that whole, because we have lots of issues that we need to take care of with our highway budget. Of course, specifically bridges. We have lots of tarred roads, paved roads, as well as gravel roads. The other item that we have been asked for funding is the Career Impact Academy. I know that we were asked for $1.5 million. We don't have those kinds of dollars available. I would suggest that we look at $400,000 to go to the Career Impact Academy, with that total being about $772,824. That would leave us with the remaining $44,824 in the revenue loss category. I know that previously, Mr. Chair, you had talked about potentially looking at 2 times the dollar amount for the highway fund, 2020 and 2021. I would suggest that we wait to see what the dollar amount is at the end of 2021. Also, we have an infrastructure bill that we don't know what's happening with that yet. The legislature for the state of North Dakota is going to be meeting. We don't know what's going to, if there will be funds going to the highway programs, and what they will be, and what the usage will be for fuel in 2021. I know in 2020 it was way less because of people not driving, going to work, commuting, things like that. 2021 is going to be better. I'm not a statistician, and I wouldn't even dare try to make a guess at that. But I think that making 2020 whole putting as much as we possibly can in the Career Impact Academy, because it's not only impacting citizens or young students in the city of Grand Forks, but also some rural school districts as well. We really need to get money into, we need to get students into medical, all of the other trades, construction, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, you name it, construct, roads, bridges, running road grade operators, which we need in the county. We need to get those kids ready, because as we see this next group of individuals retire that are baby boomers, we're all going to have plugged up toilets and not be able to get anything fixed in our houses or build a house, or it's just going to get very difficult to get some of those trades, as well as we're now seeing with the pandemic, empty beds in hospitals. And they're really not empty beds. They're there. They just don't have the capacity to serve additional patients because they don't have the staffing. And that's difficult to even explain to your family when they don't get it. Well, they should have more beds. They do. Well, then how come they don't put people there? They can't, and it's because they just don't have the staff to be able to take care of those individuals. So that's difficult. So this is a starting point. I know that there are lots of other great things that we should look at into the second year, or into when we get the second funding from other things like vehicles. There's technology requests. I know that emergency management has a VOCI system that they're looking for funding. There's also some vehicles for public health, a vehicle or a mobile unit with emergency management. With emergency management, I might suggest that you talk with Sheriff Schneider, because they do have such a facility, they do have such a camper or a unit to use, and talk with him about possibly using theirs. And not to say that that's the solution, but it might be. I think that unit is usually stored for a brief amount of time. So that would be something. The sheriff is looking for some transport vehicles as well, and we may talk about that. When it comes to tax equalization, there's the Eagle View, which certainly has its merits. IT looking for laptops and audiovisual upgrades. Public health looking for some software costs and IT replacements as well. And then I believe human resources was looking for some premium pay. And not to mention, there was the county commission meeting room that needs some updates. And then the Small Business Development Center was looking for some technical assistance and some resources. Those I would suggest, and this is just my suggestion as coming with half of the committee, that some of those be maintained until we get the second area of funding in 2022.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
member of the commission, I wanted you to make sure you understood that the $772,000 is part of the 13. So it's not in addition.
Right.
And so you would, if you fund these things, you would have to subtract and not fund everything that you were talking about in the first half.
We'd have to take 700,000 out of that first group, which is somewhat problematic, because I have some more that we need to take out of it.
So,
But yeah, and I'll say this, Mr. West isn't here. One of the problems that I see in this whole plan is that if his numbers come in low next year, this is the money that we would have to fix that, and we no longer will have that money. So Mr. West is out his money. So I don't really like that concept, but
Mr. Chairman, member of the commission, one other thing that we did increase their levy $1.5 mils for 2020.
Right.
To make up some of the lost
that's not
revenues
part of
of
the
500,000.
culvert, but that's part of the culvert process.
It is.
It's a 50-year process, and they aren't gonna last 50, so. Okay, the other thing, okay, I'll go backwards a little bit. Let's go to human resources. I met with human resources and Mr. Ford today on yesterday on premium pay. And I think it's their intention, and I agreed with them, that they wanted to present that for payment prior to 1st of December of this year. So we would have to move that in. Now that number is gonna be somewhere around, if the commission approves that number, it's gonna be around 300,000, Mr. Ford.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. The original concept, and again, this is just a concept. Ms. Commissioner Peach has 879.5. We've reduced that drastically. So it would be, sir, we were looking at a median of 280,400, 280,400.
280,400. So in order, and I think that's critical and should be taken care of as quickly as we can. Now,
Was that a certain, that was a straight dollar amount per individual?
and they'll
correct?
present that to us down the
Okay.
road, which I think it's an acceptable plan they came up with. And the other, let's see, the other problem I had is CBIC. I think that they relied on the fact that we were going to try and make them maybe not whole, but as close as we could be whole, and I still would like to do that. But I think that we need to increase that number to 300,000 with the idea that maybe we can come up with the 200,000 for them in the 2022 check money or money that comes in. But I don't think they should get, or they should go with less than. And I'm sure that doesn't make them happy either, but that's my thought on that. The other one is that on, I'd like to see us if we could buy at least one of the public health outreach vehicles for them this year. I've got a soft spot. I think we all do in our heart for public health. You know, if they'd come forward, and I'll tell you this about public health. Everybody wants money from us, every single entity. They are the only who volunteered to take less after they sent the money in. Their request, yeah. And that really says a lot about them. That's kind of part of the way they've been for the last 18 months of this whole process. They're just incredible. So if they wanted to go to Las Vegas on a vacation, I'd probably be supporting it, but we don't.
Teresa, are you ready to talk a little bit about?
Do you have questions for me?
You want information?
Yeah, if I could just finish up here
Oh,
first. So, I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and I think maybe the way to do it would be, first of all, I don't think we have to pay out that $1 million for the correction infirmary this year, because clearly that's not.
Not ready for that yet.
And if we have to, the Northwood Deaconess and All True money, we could put off into 2022 to write the check for them. In order to take care of whatever needs. And I don't know that we have to yet. If we get rid of that $1 million on corrections, we're probably all right then.
Our auditor.
Yeah, we'll have to
She's
run,
the numbers.
the bean counter will have to straighten us out on this, maybe between now and our commission meeting. Let me see here if there's anything else.
Mr. Chairman, that $1 million was just a guess. We're gonna have to go back to Icon and ask them to.
Well, right, but I know what's coming from them, and I know what's coming from the correctional center. We are never going to reach that number. That's just a number that's beyond our reach. So for the present time, if we can put $1 million into the project and maybe something more in 2022, that would make me happy. So, although this million wouldn't come till 2022 either, but I would like to find some money out of that second parcel. Now, and there are some that we haven't mentioned today. We still have the Small Business Development Center listed. We have, I think it's East Central Water, and I apologize if I'm wrong. It used to be Trail County Water Users, but it's now East Central. They have a very viable project that is going to deserve some amount of funds from us, but that would have to be in the 2022 system.
Mr. Chairman, could I talk about that project? This is Neil Breidenbach.
Yes,
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of explain it to you a little bit if I could. I was looking for the right time to talk about it, but you guys have a lot to talk about, so I didn't want to interrupt you, but we have more demand on our water. It's about doubled in the last few years, and we're using up all our permitted water at our water treatment plant, and we serve all of Grand Forks County, the entire county, and our old name was Grand Forks Trail Water. Trail merged with us, and also we're feeding some Agassiz. But the idea here is, a lot of the towns we've been feeding they have permits from their old water supply, and Northwood is one of them. They have about 100 million gallons of permitted water, which is very hard to get. And we're hoping to run a line to them to get their water back to our water plant and take the iron and manganese and hardness out. You can't use their water the way it is, but if we can get it back to our plant and run it through, we have another 100 million gallons of water we can disperse out to our customers. And with the drought the way it is, our aquifer has dropped 7 feet already, and it would be a good assurance to get more water from them to back us up in case we do have a prolonged drought, so we can keep feeding all of Grand Forks County water. Also in 97, when the flood happened, we were able to feed the city of Grand Forks for 40 days. And I know could be in jeopardy for water if the drought keeps going, if the red goes empty. And I know they're trying to get another water supply in, the Red River Valley water supply, but this would be a very quick way of getting them water if their disaster did happen, and I just wanted to explain it to you a little bit what we're trying to do there. We're trying to use the permitted water that Northwood has, and it's hard to get permits. They're kind of all used up, but that one's been sitting there for 40 years. So if we could get that back to our water plant and pump it out to all of our citizens, it would cover all of Grand Forks County. It would make a big difference. And you have the proposal there, and any money we could get towards it is going to help us with it. I just wanted to explain it to you, and I was going to see if any of you had any questions for me on it.
yeah, 1 second. Commissioner Engen has a question.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't catch your last name, Neil, but I'm from Northwood, and I'm just wondering what status are your discussions with the city of Northwood? At this point? When will you do construction, and when would you need money from us, for example? Right away or next spring?
No, I realize you're booked up on the money. I'm thinking it would be next spring. Our big demand is in the spring, and it would actually be too late for next year. But the year after, we would be able to have the line there, and our usage goes up every year. So we're going to have a need for it one way or the other eventually. And I see you have a lot of needs there. So anything we could get or any help we could get with it. If we don't get it, eventually the people in Grand Forks County pay for it through their water rates. But this is just the help with it, to get the line over there. And Northwood is, I went to their city council meeting a year ago, and they gave us all their water rights if we can use them. We've been feeding them water 40 years, and they're very happy with it. And they've never done nothing with their permits, so they're pretty happy to have us use them so we can pump water back to them, because their usage and their demand is going up just like everyone else's is. And a little bit of it too is the COVID, I think, has something to do with it, because the demand of water we had this year is unreal. It went up so high and so dramatically that I think they're using a lot more for actually some cleaning, because of COVID. Everybody is polishing stuff more. I can't say all of it's for that, but I know they're spraying more with it. And so agriculture uses it, and it's been a pretty dry year. There's a lot of needs for water, and we're the only supplier in Grand Forks County. So it's a big help to the whole county if we have enough water to make sure they have it. A little bit of the problem is too that there's a lot of irrigation water taken out of our aquifer, and so that drops us down. So it makes it more of a need to get water from other areas where they don't irrigate, so it's more stable.
We have another question for you, Neil.
Yes,
Hi Neil, this is Cynthia Peach. Where is your aquifer located?
it's it starts by Northwood and it goes north for probably 150, 200 miles. It goes up into Canada, but there's portions of it, they have different regions of it, and we're in the most east and southern region of it, and the water doesn't come back to us from up in Canada. It's just there. It doesn't, we don't have access to all of it. And the 7-foot drop we had this year is about the biggest I've seen. I've been there for 50 years. I started in 71. So it's quite an eye opener to see that go down that far, but so that's kind of why we're looking for other sources of water to pump in there. We had 3 applications there, but this is the most important one. The other one is actually to drill more wells so we have more water available to our water plant. There's a lot of maintenance on wells and there's a lot of repair on them, and we had a number of them fail on us this spring right when we needed it bad, and we did get them up and going, but we just want to be more reliable and have more backup. Water is fairly important to the whole county. They got a lot of uses for it.
You know, I looked at your needs, which really run in the millions, and it's beyond what we can ever
Yeah,
fund.
I understand.
You know, it's certainly my intention and probably the rest of the commissioner's intention to fund some money towards your project. As to how much,
Yep.
we're gonna have to wait and see into the 2022 year.
Okay.
Mr. Breidenbach, what is your service area? How far west do you go?
We go probably 8 miles west of Hatton, and then we go along the Red River. And right now when we feed, we go up, well, let's see, we go up to like Highway 200 is the end of where Grand Forks Trail is. Then trail starts and goes south from there, but we feed that out of the Hillsborough Reservoir or water treatment plant and the Mabel water treatment plant. That's a separate system. And then we go up to Highway 200 or Highway 2 is our northern region on Grand Forks Trail, but we feed Agassiz water now too. So that goes all the way up to Gilby, and they go up to the Red River.
But you don't feed the entire Grand Forks County.
Okay, what other area would be left?
South at Highway 32.
32, let's see.
Highway
We would-
32 is a cutoff of Grand Forks County to the west.
Okay, so then
Tri-County water does the west.
Tri-County does the very west tip, but Agassiz goes in there quite a ways too. I think they stop by the Turtle River State Park somewhere in there is where Agassiz stops, and we feed them all water. So it'd be a very thin sliver up there that we don't feed if we don't feed that part of it by 32, but very small. If you
River
look.
is the 24 miles from Highway 32.
Okay.
So it's
I know
quite
that.
a ways to the
I
edge
know.
of Grand Forks County.
I know they're short of water up there too, and they've talked to us before about getting water from us also, but that's beside the point. That's quite a huge area that we feed in Grand Forks County here. I can get you a map so you just can see it exactly. And
I live up there. I know exactly where the end of Highway of Grand Forks County is.
okay,
Thank you.
We have a question from Commissioner
The
Engel.
question is for Ms. Nelson or Mr. Ford. Do we have Mr. Breidenbach's contact information? Because I'd like to get that after the meeting, and perhaps I'll give you a call, Neil, to
Yep.
talk about the Northwood situation.
yes, that'd be fine. Should I give you my number right now, or I know Tom has it, so he could give it to you,
Sure,
and Nick has it.
go ahead.
It's 218-791-1918.
Thank you.
Okay, you know, Ms. Peach and I have made comments. Any comments from any of the other commissioners sitting here? Ms. Knopf?
I'm never lacking for conversation. You know, I agree with a lot that you have both proposed and my true focus is CBIC. I'm supporting them and I like the idea that you're recommending that we do at least 300,000 for first round. Was it the first round or was that waiting?
Yeah.
For the first
Yeah.
round, yeah. And take a look at that. You know, and with corrections, juvenile detention, I guess, you know, we'll have to wait on that one, but of course, that is, again, near and dear, and it's a need that we have.
Well, just the detention ones we can do now, that's even though it's in the old facility, those two projects have to go immediately.
Okay,
As in, actually, one of them they're working on,
so that's 17,000.
yeah, and that, the 5,000 one is already being worked on right now, that's, it should have been in before, so.
And let me see, what else did I like here? Thought was important. I like the fact that you're supportive, that it appears that we're supportive of East Central Regional Water, because I think that's crucial. And that needs to be a key focus for us. And it isn't that I'm not in favor of everything here, but again, with the limits that we have, I guess that would be my only comments. I'm fine with that, what's being proposed.
Sure. And Mr. Ingen, any other comments?
Well, just, I'm waiting to see what the numbers are now that we've switched all around. Because we might be able to adjust some things favorably after we work this out. The idea of some of them waiting into 22 seems perfectly a good way to do this, because we'll take care of some of these immediate needs right away. But one of the questions I had was on was the premium pay number something we have to take care of by December?
We don't have to take care, we'd like,
That's the plan, to try.
yeah, when I met with Human Resources.
Yeah, that looked like a big number on the initial sheet here.
Yeah.
That's gonna work out pretty well, I think. Other than that, I think these are some fair changes. I wish we could fund everybody.
Yeah.
We can,
Well,
we're trying to do what we can.
more will get money hopefully in 2022, we know that, so after we get through these. Commissioner Ross, do you have any comments?
Just that a lot of thought went into this plan that Commissioner Peach came up with, and of course, Commissioner Falk, you made some good comments. I think the pie's only so big, and there's only so much that we can do. As Commissioner Egan said, it'd be nice to see now with some of the thoughts that have gone out, what numbers come out of this thing, so that hopefully we can deal with this, get it done.
Well, you know, I drafted up a similar plan, although mine's just scratched out at a legal pad. I'm not like Commissioner Peach, but I was somewhat surprised in that our numbers were fairly close, and where I differed, I brought that out here today. And I agree with Commissioner Knopf on CBIC. I'd like to give them their whole check today for, you know, this year. But I don't know how we can do that as far as with the funds we have right now.
Not to mention public health,
Yeah,
whatever we can give them.
yeah, they give, and let's hear from them. We want to give them a car here, I think, so.
Thank you. I think everyone knows who I am, but my name is Teresa Knox and I'm the Nursing and Nutrition Division Supervisor. Debbie was not unavailable this afternoon, so I'm here. I really just came to support the effort and to answer any questions if there were any. So I don't have a presentation to take up your time with. I think you've heard from us before. So if there's any questions for me, I am available.
Does anyone have any questions, Commissioner Peach? No?
Thank you.
You know what they do?
Yeah, well, we appreciate everything you do.
Oh, we appreciate your
Thanks for
support.
coming.
I take that back. I know that you had put in 2 vehicles, and I guess it doesn't matter one's 45, one's 55. But you looked at one vehicle for vaccination outreach and one vehicle, an outreach vehicle for county travel. I believe that was for the school nurses.
Right.
Is it gonna matter? I mean, at one point you might be able to kind of use them for both.
Right, the outreach vehicle is a little bit different in that it is one that we can fit up for a mobile vaccination and swabbing events in the county. So it would be bigger. If you go to Spectra has a little van that they've outfitted that's in there, it's more of the size, a little bit bigger size, more like a van. The vehicles that we were looking at for the county travel for the school nurses are more like sedans.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
I think we should really think about funding both those vehicles. It clearly falls within ARPA. And the one is used for medical purposes more, the other one, if we don't buy it, we're still paying for it because we're paying mileage for those nurses driving their own cars right now. So my thought is we take care of that expense out of ARPA and solve their transportation needs, but I'm just throwing that out.
I would
What do
agree.
you think,
So would
Mr. Carman, Mr. Ross?
would that be on a state bid then, that we would get those vehicles? Because that's the cheapest way to do it.
Yeah.
You would have to do it that way.
Yeah, the question, the car would be fine. The question I'd have is whether or not a van, I'm not sure what kind of van they have in mind, whether that comes,
You should be able to get it.
Yeah. if they can.
I would think that would fall
Okay.
within a state, and the state bid should be coming out here.
Yeah.
Toward the end of October, first part of November for the entire state, so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, pardon me, Debbie?
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, is everybody on board with taking the $1 million out for the infirmary, for the correctional center?
Yeah, that's
and
too
using
far out. That project is,
Right.
that
So-
project's farther away than All Truth project.
Yeah, if
That's a
we
long
do the juvenile detention HVAC 5,000, juvenile detention sanitation equipment 12,000, school nurses 291,200, correctional center nursing support for 81,536, all true 600,000, Spectra 50,000 for a social worker, Northwood Weakness at 330, CVIT at 300,000, Red River Children's Advocacy at 40, the premium pay at 280,400, public health vehicles at 100,000, and highway at 328. We would have a couple 100,000 left of our first half. And so we would be within, we could do all of those things.
Okay, you said the highway. Now, how about the Career Impact Academy? That 400,000.
Different.
No, but we could do some of it, but we couldn't do 400. I don't know if we have about 200 in 2021. Comment?
Mr. Lunt, yes, come up here a second.
Love to, thank you.
I probably appreciate that. I actually want to hear from you.
Could we cut out something by
Mr. Chairman.
200,000?
Yeah, you could make some other
Couldn't
cuts.
we cut out Drew's by 200,000?
Yeah, but I wanted to hear what Keith's got to say about how they need this money or when they need the money.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the project will not begin until late spring or summer 2022, so funding is not needed at that time. The funding available at the state is on a reimbursement basis, so the project has to incur costs, need to demonstrate that those costs have been incurred. I'm not sure if actually paid or not, but incurred before we get that, before the school district gets that reimbursement. So funds aren't needed until 2022. What is needed to leverage the state dollars is a commitment by, well, soon.
Now,
And Mr. Chairman, you have to remember though, that only can come from the revenue loss. So if you apply all of it to the highway department, or what you discussed earlier, to save some of that for the highway for next year, the money will be gone.
Well, that was my point, Ms. Nelson, but Ms. Peach and others seem to think that we need to support the academy for the 400,000, so Nick is gonna have to scramble for money.
I'll help you.
Was there,
Yeah, Miss Peach is,
I will help
she's
you.
gonna help him, and I'm tasking her with telling him his money is now reduced down.
Oh, no, it's not reduced for 2020.
Yeah,
is there an
It's good for
initiative with the
2020.
city?
pardon me?
Was there an initiative with funding CTE or CIA now
Yes,
from the city as well?
yes, they offered to loan us the $1.5 million and we could pay it back over 10 years through the mill levy.
And that's a terrible plan.
No, but $400,000 would be now.
Well, I understand, but I was wondering where that other plan came from.
The city.
What?
The city offered it.
Yeah, right.
But we only have we have less than 2 mills till we're maxed out.
Well, I know. I know.
It's not gonna
That
happen.
doesn't work right now.
Just, Mr. Chairman, despite some of the feedback that I heard just a short time ago on that suggestion, may I make a suggestion?
As long as it doesn't require more than $400,000.
Well, it may. I understand the
Yeah.
position. I'd like to make a suggestion for your consideration. And first of all, thank you for your support and partnership. I wasn't sure what time this meeting was. Went on the website and saw that you were promoting the recognition that the EC, Mr. Bombach and Ms. Kruger received last week. So I really appreciate you promoting and sharing that positive message. Thank you, Commissioner, for the suggestion, and it seems like there's some traction on 400,000. The city had mentioned, I guess it would be subject to city council approval, carrying some level of debt forward, or if you want to refer to it as debt for 10 years. I want to give you an update on where we are on fundraising, if I might, just real briefly, and then that suggestion. So we have $2.95 million secured. Commitments, board approval, those kinds of things, papers in the office. I have been counting all along the $1.7 million from the city. That's the value of the property that they will be donating for the project. The JDA has not approved that, but they've agreed to buy it. They've agreed to demolish it. I'm not sure what they do with it otherwise. So I think I'm pretty safe in counting that investment. So that's $4.65 million. We have $2.3 million worth of requests that have been made, sat across the table and asked somebody for, or a company for $100,000 or $500,000 or $50,000. So those requests are now made. I'm discounting that by 25%, just for our conversation here, coming in at that would translate to $1.7 million. If we add all that up, 6.35, we have $3.65 million left to raise. If we think every company from now on is going to invest $100,000, that's 36 companies. If we think that every company will have an average of 50,000, that's in the neighborhood of 72 companies. So that's at this reach. So the support from the county, I think, is extremely critical at the level that we could do it. And appreciate the conversation of 400,000. I would like to propose, and I understand the 1.5 might have been a rich ask, is if we could get to $1 million, I think that demonstrates strong support. That would be $600,000 in addition to the $400,000 that was discussed, but obviously not acted upon yet. And carry forward that $60,000 a year, and based on the current mill levy, that's less than 0.2 mils moving forward, and hopefully with growth, that commitment obviously reduces over the period of time. I appreciate the position, Mr. Falk or Commissioner Falk. We've had a conversation either today or yesterday, and Commissioner Beach we did today, and I appreciate your position. I thank you for your consideration and for allowing me to make a few comments today, and I would be happy to answer questions.
I told Mr. Lund if we went over what we were suggesting, we'd have to take it out of the money we give him yearly for DEC, but
What is it?
yeah, he was.
A little bit of silence.
But, and 600,000, I appreciate that, but we have no way of coming up with that money. Even the mill levy, we're going to be asking the citizens for 5 or 6 mills when we end up building this correctional center in the next year or so. So in my mind, we need to find ways to reduce our mills. And by adding it, that's just not going to work. And we have a salary study going on right now that's been commissioned, and we know full well that our salaries are below what they need to be. And that's going to come back and bite us and say we need to invest in that. So I think we first have to invest in our own employees before we start investing more in the other employees in the community. And that's after we see that and You know, maybe next year there might be a chance for somebody, but not right now. I don't see it. Actually, the 400 is 150 more than I was prepared to go with today. So.
Very okay. Thank you. I'll stand for any other questions, or actually I'll sit down and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank
I
you.
don't think we have anything.
Very good.
So. Ms. Nelson,
Yes.
how do we want to go about doing this so we don't write any rubber checks today?
So I will put it on paper and you will have it in front of you, everything that I believe was discussed and the committee would like. And then you can bring it to the full board under committee reports for approval.
Well, that'd be great.
And you got all kinds of time.
Yeah, you've only got an hour and 15 minutes, but that should be plenty, so.
Yeah.
The rest of us will have coffee or something.
Yeah.
Very good. Coffee, I forgot.
Okay, does anybody else have anything more here today? Okay, meeting's adjourned until Ms. Peach brings us up at 4 o'clock.
Thank you.
How are you? Good, how are you? How's your mom? Oh, she's great. She's got a suitor. Mike told me. Apparently, these are confidants, only she told him. I'm telling you. So I'm happy. You like them? Yeah, I've only been a couple of times, but she's so, she's like schoolgirl. You run like a schoolgirl, so me too.